Welcome guys to my creative corner. For those of you that's new, my name is Claudette with Miss Puff Creative Corner, and today I'll be creating two different cards, two different layouts, as well as a gift box. So if you're interested in that, please do stick around. So let's go ahead and switch down to the work table so we can get started. Okay, so today's project is featuring the Whimsy and Wonder Designer Series paper by Stampin' Up. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator, and this comes in a 12 pack. So you're gonna get 12 of these designer series paper. So you're gonna get 12 in a pack. They come double-sided. So you're gonna get 6 with a design on each side, so you're going to get 2 of those, so a total of 12. Look at this beautiful paper. It's not your traditional Christmas colors, and this could be used for any occasion. I just love this paper, and it's foiled. I don't know if you guys could see the shine in that. And let's turn it over so you could see the other side. Alright, so let's get started with our first card. So we're going to be creating this card right here. So we're going to get a piece of cardstock. For those of you who are new to card making, you're just going to take your cutting tool, you're going to bring in your cardstock, and this cardstock is measuring 11 by 8.5 inches. I'm going to put it down on the 11-inch side, and then we're going to put it here on the 5.5 mark. You're going to go ahead, take your blade, and go ahead and cut that down the middle, and then you're going to have 2 halves. All right, and that you have your 2 bases for your cardstock. So we're going to take one of those halves. Okay, so now this is measuring 8.5 by 5.5. So you're going to take your cardstock. So you're going to take it, and then you're going to score it down the middle, and you're going to put it at 4.25. So your cardstock was 11 inches by 8.5 inches. So now you're putting it up here on the 8.5-inch side. So that means you're going to score it down at 4.25. So you're going to take your scoring blade and you're going to score it down in half like that. Then another little trick that you could do, you could butt it up to this edge and bring the other leg there so you could get even legs, and you want to fold that in half and give that a nice crease. All right. Sometimes some people complain about the legs not being even, so if you put that up against the edge, that would help you. For those of you that are beginning paper crafters, then you take your bone folder and you give that a good press. So there we have the base of our card. Next we want a piece of, I'm going to come in with a piece of white cardstock. This is measuring 3 3/4 by 5 inches. Then we want, I have some designer series paper here. This is measuring 2 inch by 4 7/8 of an inch. And we have 2 smaller pieces. This one here is measuring 1 5/8 by 2 7/8. And these measurements are all in inches. And then this one is measuring 1 5/8 by 1 7/8. So what we're going to do is go ahead and glue these smaller pieces onto our white cardstock. I am going to bring in my silicone mat. We'll bring this white piece right there. So we're going to come in and take our wet glue, multi-purpose glue, add some of that here to the back of the designer series paper. And then we're going to add this right down here to the bottom. And you're going to leave some of the white edges showing. So just even it up as even as you can. So then we're going to bring in the other 2 pieces of our designer series paper, and we're going to put the shorter one right up here. And we're gonna line this up right here to the edge here. And we just want an even amount of white on this side and then to the top. It's not gonna matter right in here because we're gonna add a ribbon to cover that up. Then we're gonna add this piece right here. But before we do add this piece here, I am gonna go ahead and stamp our sentiment on there. And being that this has all the foiling on it, I went ahead and did some heat embossing with some silver embossing powder. And I am going to use the stamp set called Heartfelt Wishes. These are beautiful. Look at the script on this. And I'm going to use the sentiment Sending Love. First, I'm going to let's put this on the side. Embossing buddy. And just dust this off. And this just have like some talcum powder in it. Just to clean that off, get any oils off of this. So when you're embossing, it doesn't catch powder where it's not supposed to. We're gonna bring in our Versamark ink and we're gonna go ahead and ink this up. And then we'll stamp that right down the middle in the center. Hold that for a few seconds so our ink could transfer. And that's just going to be clear until you put your embossing powder on there. So I'm going to bring in my silver embossing powder. I'm going to bring in a coffee filter to catch the excess. And then this is my silver embossing powder. I'll just put that right on there. And what I would do is take a little, one of my paint brushes with a fine little tip and just dust off any of the loose embossing powder. And then that's just for our viewers who are new to embossing. So I'm just going to put on my heating tool and then the heat is going to melt that powder. And you're going to see it's going to go from this matte finish to a shiny look. So one side is shiny and the other side is not done yet. So I don't know if you guys could see that. And then it's good if you have a clothespin or a tweezer to hold the end of this so you don't get burned. Okay, so let's bring in our cardstock again. So we're just gonna add some glue and put that right down in that spot to the top. And you're gonna line it up along this edge here and try to line it up to the top with the silver. Then what we're going to do is bring in some ribbon. And with that designer series paper, they have a matching ribbon to go with it. And this is this ribbon that they have it right here. And it's called Frayed Gross Grain Ribbon. And this is in their pink. And they call this a brushing bride. I don't know if you see those frayed edges. So we're going to bring in a couple of pieces of this. So you want a long enough piece that it'll reach to the back, okay? And we're going to go ahead, and you could take some, this piece is measuring about 6.5 inches. You could take your glue dots or transparent tape and tape these onto the back. And we just want to make sure that's nice and straight back here. Then we're going to bring in another piece, and I am going to just make a little knot. Okay, so you have a nice little flat knot there. Then we're just going to cut the edges. And then now we're going to bring in the base, the card base, and we'll add that to the front of our card. Just add some glue to the back of this white cardstock. Then we're going to put it down to the center of our card. Then for the inside of our card, it's going to, the white cardstock is measuring the same as the front, 3 3/4 by 5 inches. And I am just going to add a strip of my leftover cardstock to the bottom right here. So let's just take some glue. Just add it right here down to the bottom. Then we're just going to flip it over and then cut off the excess. Then I am going to heat emboss again with silver. And these are my Christmas cards that I'm going to be sending out. So next what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and add some glue to the back of this. And it's always good to stamp your sentiment first, just in case you make a mistake and you need to switch and use the opposite side. Okay, so next we're going to design, this is a different layout that we're going to be doing. Okay, so for our next card and the layout, what we're going to be doing is a different layout. So again, I'm just going to show for our new beginner card makers. This is the paper again. This is 11 by 8.5. So instead of putting it on the 11-inch side when you're cutting, you're going to put it on the 8.5 side. And you're going to put it right up here at 4 1/4, and you're going to cut it down the middle. Then you're going to have your two bases for your cardstock. So once you have the base of your cardstock, we're going to bring it in and we're going to be scoring it down the middle. And so this time we're going to score it down at 5 1/2. So we're going to put it in the on this side with 11 inches. We're going to put it right here at 5 1/2. And we're going to take our score blade and score that down the middle. Then we're going to go ahead and fold that in half. Butt those two ends up. So what we're going to do is take 1/2 of the flap. So we're going to take half of the flap right here. We're going to put this, we're going to cut 2 inches off of this. Okay, so you're going to put it at the 2-inch mark, and then we're going to go ahead and cut that off. All right, so now that leaves us with this little segment. This panel right here is going to be measuring 3.5 by 4 1/4. Okay, and we're going to bring in a white base cardstock, and this is measuring 4 1/8 by 3 3/8. Then I'm going to layer that with our designer series paper, and this is measuring 3 1/4 by 4 inches. So let's bring in our multi-purpose glue. And then we'll just add some glue to the back of this designer series paper. Then we're going to go ahead and add these two together. Just making sure we have an even amount of white all around. Then we're going to take that and we're going to glue it to this panel right here. So we're going to add some glue to the back of this. And add this to this panel right here, and then we'll just make sure we have some of the gray showing around. So this piece right here is measuring 2 inches by 4 1/4, and then we're going to add the white cardstock. This is measuring 1 7/8 by 4 1/8. And then we need a piece of designer series paper, and this is measuring 1 3/4 by 3 3/4. So we're going to put our layers together. Then we're going to take this and then we're going to add it to this edge right here. So this is the flap that will be closing, and then so we'll add this right to the edge right there. So we'll add some multi-purpose glue here, and then you want your edges to line up nicely, making sure you don't overlap. Okay. Then for the inside white cardstock, that's going to be measuring 3 3/4 by 5 inches. Is the same measurements as that white cardstock there. But I'm going to go ahead and heat emboss it. Okay, so now we're just going to add this insert in the inside. And then what we want to make sure that it's closer to the left side. All right, not too much on that side, because when you close it, you don't want to see the white showing. So you want it more on this side to this scoring line here. Next, I need a sentiment for the outside, and I am going to use a label die. And the label die that I'm going to use is called Tasteful Label Dies, and you have a selection of nice dies with the imprint of stitching along there, and these are just beautiful. So I'm going to use this particular die here, and I am going to use some vellum. So I cut a little piece of vellum, and I'm going to go heat emboss a sentiment on this. I like to stamp first, then die cut, because it gives me, it's easier to get an even amount all around if I stamp crooked. So I like to place this, and you kind of eyeball it and make sure your sentiment is going to fit, and make sure you have enough space around for your die to cut evenly. So if you stamp this up, for instance, up to the top here, then you're not going to be even, you're not going to have an even amount of vellum around, okay? So if that makes sense. I'm going to heat emboss using the same silver. So I am going to heat emboss, and I'm going to just put the heat to the bottom of the vellum. Okay, so now what we're going to do is take our die and we're going to cut this out. So you see how it's stamped closer to this edge. I went a little bit too much to this edge, okay? So you want to have an even amount, and this is why I like to stamp first and then cut out afterwards. So I'm going to bring in our little mini emboss and cut machine, and this is so neat because it's so small. And it tells you which plates to use. So I'm using the base plate, which is 1, and then I'm using the 2 cotton plates, and you say they are labeled with 2 on there. So what I'm going to do is put the base down, put 1 of the cotton plate down. So we're going to put the cotton plate down. We're going to put our vellum in. I am going to add this, and I am going to put some tape down. And it's good to use like washi tape or the craft tape. I am just going to use some transparent tape for now, being that this is vellum. And then we'll put the top plate down. And then we're going to run that through. And for those who are new, you get an imprint on your plates. Okay, so that's the first time that I use my plate. So you could keep one as cotton plate. So you just etched up that one, and you just keep one for your non-cotton. All right, so let's remove our tape. And I don't know if you guys could see the stitching on that. Okay, so what we're gonna do is get some glue dots, and then we're gonna attach our sentiment. And then you have to, like with vellum, if you add in glue to the back of it, it shows up. You want to make sure you put them on spots where you could embellish the top of it so it won't be noticeable. All right, so we're going to go ahead and place this right about here. I just created a bow using this silver metallic string. It comes in a combo with the silver and gold. I am just going to take a glue dot, and we're just going to ball this glue dot up so it could be nice and round, and add it to the knot of this bow. So you want it nice and round so it could fit nicely behind the knot of this bow, and I'm just going to add it over that glue dot that's holding down the vellum. Then I am going to take a rhinestone and just add it right here. So this rhinestone come with 3 different sizes, small, medium, and large, and I actually prefer the small ones. And on my sample, I used the larger rhinestone, and I prefer that smaller one. And let's go move on to our box. And then stick with me to the end. I'm going to show you a variation of those designs that I created. Okay, so for our box now, so this is the box that we're going to be creating. And I am using a different color. So what I am using here is garden green. So we have a variation of green. So the base of our box is measuring 6.5 by 6.5. And then for the cover is going to be measuring 5.5 by 5.5. So we're going to go ahead and score those. So now we're going to score this on either side at 1 9/16 of an inch. 1 9/16 of an inch, and that's going to be the tick mark right after the 1.5 inch mark. So next we're going to score. So you have to be careful with your blades. It's good to take your one blade out, which your cutting blade, but we're going to cut down on that so it doesn't really matter that much, but that could happen. So next we're going to bring in the top of the box and we're going to score it at 1 inch on either side. Okay, so then we're going to go, it doesn't matter which side you're doing, as just do the opposite, and they're all the same on either side. So we're going to come down and we're going to do a miter cut. We're going to come right here, cut this down, and then we're just going to do a miter cut, which is just taking a little sliver out of this piece right here. I'm going to cut this down here, and it's just like a little triangular sliver. Okay, so we're going to turn it over. We're going to turn it on this side, and we'll do the same thing on that side. So we're going to take the bottom of the box and do the same thing. All right, so I already cut into that one. I'm just going to take a sliver out. Do the same thing on this panel. Okay, so once you're cutting, you're just going right up to, you're not passing that score line. We're going to fold it and varnish it with our bone folder. So we're going to do that to the top and then on the bottom. Okay, now we're going to glue our box together. So we're going to bring these shorter panels on the inside. So I'm just going to add some multi-purpose glue right here to the tip. And then we're just going to bring that down, make sure those edges are lined up nicely. And now if you find that it's coming, this little panel is coming more to the top right here, you may have to cut off a little bit more where you did that miter cut. So if you brought this in and you feel that it's coming to the edge right there like that, you may have to snip off just a little bit more. Okay, so we're going to just add glue to each panel and bring that in. We're also going to do that to the cover of the box. So you could shape your box a little bit. Just take your bone folder, press those corners in, varnish that a little bit. So take that nice square shape. And then you have your lid that fits on there pretty nicely. Then what we're going to do is add some ribbon to that. And just sticking with the theme and the softer colors, I'm just going to bring in that same pink. We could use this metallic string too as well. Let's see if I could train it here a little bit. And we're just going to add a bow to that. And just cut the ends and this one here. Then I'm just going to take that piece and add it to a tag that I've created, a to and from tag. And I'm just going to add a couple knots here, 2 knots. Then I'm just going to tie it in the bow. So these are the 2 boxes. This is the 1 sample. And I use the designer series paper on this. And of course, so you have to think if you use the cardstock, it's much more sturdier. But you get a prettier box, right, with the designer series paper. I really like that one. With the bow. Let's bring in our cards. All right, so this is the one that we created first with the green base, which is in the mint macaron. And this is a variation here of the card. Instead of stamping a sentiment here, I did this here on the sentiment on top of vellum. Add that to and add a piece of ribbon right there. I did not tuck this edges, I just left the edges out. So that's just a different variation. So this is the other layout that we did. Also did a layout in a garden green. And I add our metallic ribbon. I add this metallic mesh ribbon to it. This could be for any occasion. Some people use it for Halloween. You could use it for weddings, but this is a beautiful ribbon. And it's great for the holidays. So if you guys are new to my channel and like what you saw here today, consider hitting the subscribe button as well as the bell icon so you can be notified when I upload my latest videos. Thank you guys for tuning in. This is Claudette and I'll catch you guys on my next video. So if you like what you saw here today, maybe you'll consider watching these other videos.